So diversity and inclusion, to you, what does that mean? I'm just very interested, to kind of set the scene for the whole kind of talk in terms of, I guess to you, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's a phrase. Diversity and inclusion is an often used, misused, misunderstood phrase. It's not really, people don't see it as words anymore. They don't see diversity and inclusion. They see it as diversity inclusion, DNI or DENI, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we throw a B in there for belonging, DEIB or Debbie, however you want to say it. And people often don't stop to think about it. I probably summarize it as creating positive people experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate PPE is a bit topical at the moment, but fundamentally, it's about creating environments, experiences for people where they can thrive and they
Mm-hmm.
can feel full positive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the output, because we talk about inputs, we talk about all the challenges of DEI, DNI, but the outcome really is creating environments where people can thrive.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate output. That's the why we're doing this. Why does it matter? Because we want people to have the opportunity to succeed. So the diversity is recognizing that we're all different. We'll have our own life skills. We all have our lived experience, whether that's faith, race, ethnicity, LGBTQ plus, maleness, femaleness, non-binariness, whatever that may be. So we all have our different backgrounds, but fundamentally we are all different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's recognizing that our differences are our superpower, and it's the inclusion element is recognizing that our differences mean that we need to be included in a different way. We can't treat everyone the same.
Mm-hmm.
We're not motivated the same. We don't want to be communicated the same way. We're not empowered. We're not challenged in the same way. So the diversity is we're all different. Inclusion is recognizing that we all need to be empowered in a different way to allow us to succeed in the way that we want to succeed. Yeah. So that's about creating this culture, creating this empowerment, creating environments where people can thrive whilst being very person-centric.
Mm-hmm. What's really interesting, and it's just because I love doing this, I just love talking to people, but it's likewise one of my former guests, because a lot of my background as an engineer is in renewables, and for a long time renewables was about the climate change argument more than the business case. When I think it was about 5-10 years ago, there was a real shift when people actually realized that actually putting time and effort into diversification, into renewables, made perfect business sense because it made them more productive, diversified the risk, it did everything they wanted to do. And one of the things that really kind of struck me with your talk was actually the more you spoke, the more I kind of twigged, because I'm human as well. I'm, nobody's perfect, but it was almost really kind of acknowledging and investing in making people feel included in the workplace and that kind of thing will have genuine impact on the bottom line. And it's that balance, I think, that, do you ever find that some people worry? I guess it depends on the background, but almost, in the same way that people used to poo-poo climate change protesters, I guess there's balance, but climate change to do with an agenda. But actually, yes, it kind of is in some ways, but also it makes perfect business sense to do it as well. I don't know, almost some of do you ever find any barriers to what people think to really kind of invest in this area?
There's a lot of people pushing back on wokeness, politically correctness. You've seen it probably in the press recently about we're sanitizing humor, we're destroying comedy, we're creating environments where people can't be themselves, despite the fact the objective is so people can be themselves. I think often what we're forgetting is, let's take comedy or humor.
Mm-hmm.
If it's constraining your comedy or humor, maybe your comedy or humor was at somebody's expense. And we think about the British sense of humor, the sarcasm, the dry humor we have as in the UK. Often if you look at the sitcoms, we look at the comedy
Mm-hmm.
clubs, they're all around about putting someone down and making laugh out of somebody's misfortune or their characteristic or highlighting their difference. So we can be funny without someone being the target of that humour. And I know comedians, some more intelligent ones, maybe use themselves as
Mm-hmm.
their own parody, which is fine. And the danger of that is they're almost giving permission to use their disability as a humour, use their race as a humour, whatever. So again, it's a very privileged thing to say, I'm okay with it, therefore it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The danger is by using self-deprecation is you're almost saying, well, I've given you permission to laugh at me, therefore I'm giving you permission to laugh at other people. So I think we can use more intelligent humor. We can develop our humor in ways where it's not at someone's expense.
Mm-hmm.
It's creating more intelligent conversations. And I think when we're looking at comedians maybe who rely on that deprecation, that self-deprecation, or using others as the butt of the joke, that can be quite lazy. And I think that's what we've got to try and avoid, because nobody wants to be offended or have an offence at them. But if you're sat in the audience and you're the butt of the joke, how does that make you feel? You could laugh it off. But we think about phrases like microaggressions. You may hear these jokes all the time, and they eventually have a toll on you. Your Scottish accent, your Irish accent, your low IQ, your disability. Yeah, it's like looking at James Bond villains. Every James Bond villain has a facial disfigurement, a limp. In the last one, No Time to Die, one of the villains had a false eye that came out. So we always see the villain as being painted as less than complete, less than normal, whatever normal may mean. So we're creating this parody of good versus bad, where bad is always someone who has something wrong with them or something different about them. It's an accent, it's a facial disfigurement, it's a limp, it's something. And how does that make you feel if you have a facial disfigurement, if you have an Eastern European accent, if you're always finding that you are the brunt of you're always the nemesis?
Mm-hmm.
That reflects into society. It reflects on how people treat you in society, how people treat you in the workplace. So, yeah, people do push back because people feel that they're losing something. They're losing the ability to be them. Mm-hmm. It's a very privileged statement, because you've never had to think about the impact of your words or someone else's words on you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't suffer from that, from being impacted, then you probably don't understand what it's like for somebody else to have words used against them. So I think that's the challenge we have, is not to try and sanitize conversations. It's not trying to police people's language. It's not telling people how to think or what to think. What I would like to do is, when we talk about being woke, is awaken people
mm-hmm.
to think about the impact of their words, thoughts, and deeds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure most people don't want to create a negative impact. Most people, if they realise that someone's impacted by their actions, they'll be quite taken back and think, "Oh, hang on a minute, that wasn't my intent." So we often have great intent, but it's understanding your great intent may also be problematic. It may also have negative connotations, and that's what I'd like to push back on people. Not tell you what to do. I don't want to tell you what to think.
Mm-hmm.
Just be aware of your impact on others.